Would you like to know how to drop PPOs carefully, with confidence, and without risking the potential financial disaster resulting from mass exodus of your patients? That's exactly what we're going to talk about tonight. Broadcast from Planet Gems. Stay tuned. My 5-step plan to safely exit your PPOs. First, let's start with what I would call the satellite view. You may have read, or at least you probably heard the title of Harvey Mackay's book, Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. The whole concept of that book is don't wait until after the fact to try to fix something that went wrong. Fix it before you need it. In other words, do whatever you need to do before you get to that point of needing the water. So dig your well before you're thirsty. So replace your patients and the income that you could potentially lose before you pull the trigger, even on the first plan that you're going to dump. I'm going to repeat that. Replace the patients you could potentially lose. Replace the revenue or the income that you might lose. Obviously, you want to do everything that you can to minimize both of those, but dig your well before you're thirsty. And then once you're in a good position financially with confidence, you can make a good decision to begin to exit some of your plans. Never make an emotional decision. Too many doctors, they get so fed up with the amount of money that they're losing to the PPOs and the whole rigmarole of the staff being put on hold and hung up on and the denials and downgrades. I'm out, and they just email the company, or they send a note to the company and they send them out, and then they leave the plan but with no plan. They leave their plans with no plan. So it should always be a systematic, calculated, tactical withdrawal as you're starting to leave each PPO. So here's the 5 steps. Step number 1 is your front door, new patients coming in. So I would do 2 things for new patients. Number 1 is I would do targeted new patient marketing. And what I mean by targeted is not just broad brush, bring in anybody you can, but I would be focused on maybe implants, Invisalign, sleep dentistry, maybe those 3 things for many, many reasons, but those would be the 3 things I would target. So I would do specific targeted ads, each of which would only bring in that one type of patient. So Invisalign patients, another ad specifically to bring in sleep dentistry or implants and so forth. The other thing I would be doing in marketing is I would be bringing in fee-for-service patients. That's what I would be targeting as well. So there's 2 different types of targeting I would look at. One would be specific treatment or service. The other would be people who don't have insurance, in other words, full fee-for-service. Step 2 is close down the back door. So we looked at the front door, which is your new patient flow, but let's close down the back door. After a deep analysis of several thousand practices over the last 21 years, what I've found is that the majority of practices have 25 to 30% of their active patient base, active patient being somebody who's been in the last 18 months, 25 to 30% of those patients don't have a recall visit. They're not coming in on hygiene at all. Not just that they don't have one scheduled, but they haven't been coming in on hygiene. So there's a huge opportunity. Even if you were to just bring back 10 more patients per week who are in your active patient base but who've not been responding to the text messages and the occasional phone call and the emails, all the typical stuff that we do, just 10 more patients back into the recall, into your recall chair each week, you're looking at about $100,000 in your hygiene fees and a minimum of $200,000 resulting from the exams. That's in restorative fees, minimum of $200,000. It's probably going to be more than that, but I'm using a very, very low figure. So it's a total of about $300,000 just for working on your hygiene recall. Step number 3 is take a step back and re-examine everything from the front door to the back door. So everything in between new patient flow and bringing them back in on recall. Do a deep analysis of all the opportunities to increase patient acceptance of recommended care. Also, not just what you're already offering, but what types of services or treatments might you offer that maybe you're not right now, things that would benefit your patients, improve their health, make them happier, but that wouldn't cost you a lot of money, take you a lot of time to figure out, not a lot of not buying any equipment. So you want to keep it simple, inexpensive, and quick. But what are some of those things that maybe right now you're overlooking? So take a look at those as well. How can we increase patient health and happiness and at the same time increase practice revenue? Typical 1 doctor, 1 hygienist office. And if you've got 2 hygienists, you get 2 doctors and so forth, just multiply yours by this number. But for a 1 doctor, 1 hygienist office, it's pretty straightforward to add about 200, 300,000, oftentimes even 400,000 or more, just by improving the acceptance of existing care that you've already been recommending, just by tweaking case acceptance, but also by adding one or more simple treatments, as I mentioned just a moment ago, that maybe currently you're overlooking or just haven't been offering. Step number 4, after you have deployed the first 3 steps, which increases you several $100,000 per year, then evaluate your plans. When I say evaluate them, I want you to sort them not by how much you're writing off, but by how many patients are in each plan. So you want to sort them from the smallest plan that has the fewest number of patients. At the very bottom of your list should be the largest plan that has a huge percentage of your patients. Step number 5, starting with the smallest plan, so the smallest being the one that only has the fewest patients, use that one to begin your PPO exit strategy. And the reason that I suggest using that one, I would use that smallest because it's going to be your test case. You're going to minimize risk. That's the one during which you're going to learn the steps of how do you get out without losing as many patients. And you'll get better each time you do this. And that's why I would always start with 1 or 2 of your smallest plans. So what are the steps you should take in this step number 5? How do we break it down, step number 5 of getting out? First of all, A, never tip off the PPO. Let's say it's MetLife or Delta or whoever it is. Never tip off the PPO that you're leaving until after you've spoken with at least 90% of your patients. That's right. Don't let the moment that you let the insurance company know that you're pulling the trigger to get out, they're going to send a poison pen letter, a terrible letter to your patients saying that Dr. Smith's no longer considered a preferred provider, and here's a list of some preferred providers who are still in good standing with Delta or whatever it is. Do not allow the insurance company to preempt you. You want to make sure you've spoken to 90% of your patients first. That's A. B, never do this by email or letter. These are 2 of the biggest mistakes I see commonly with doctors who I talk to, and they say, well, yeah, I sent my patients an email or I sent them a personal letter. Neither of those will work well. They're both going to be really hurting you in the number of patients who are going to bill out of your practice. C, only do this knee to knee, eye to eye, and toe to toe, meaning you got to do it one patient at a time. You're doing it in the office. I would have the doctors do it, and I would have the hygienists do it. So the hands-on providers, they're doing this discussion. You come up with a verbal script, and it's not just the wording, but it's even the tone, the delivery, the timing. But that's why you want to do this with the smallest one first, because you'll get good at it, and eventually you'll be able to do this and minimize your loss as you get into the bigger ones. D is you're going to do this over a 6-month recall cycle. So this is not something that can be done quickly, but it's very worthwhile because you're going to save a lot of money in going to full fee versus all the write-offs that are killing you. So remember, you didn't deploy steps 4 and 5, the last couple of things, until you were already much busier, making a lot more money based on effectively deploying those first 3 steps. So if you prepare properly, if you dig your well before you're thirsty, and you carefully and systematically withdraw from PPOs, you're going to have minimal collateral damage, and you're going to be able to do that with confidence that you're going to be taking the best possible care of your patients and getting off of that hamster wheel that you're on, which is it's just nuts. You're roller skating from room to room on the hamster wheel. So you want to be compensated extraordinarily for what you're doing. You're delivering high-quality services. You're using your best possible team members. You're using all the quality materials, which have gone up crazy numbers. You want to be compensated for that. So do this systematically and carefully. And if you'd like my help in mapping out those 5 steps, very specific to your practice situation, if you'd like my help to safely reduce your dependence on PPOs by at least 1/3 within the next 24 months, increase your collections by a minimum of $250,000 and very often more than that, and get more of your best dentistry accepted by more of your patients, if you want to get off of that hamster wheel and just slow down and enjoy dentistry and have more fun and make more money, my team and I have set aside some time in the next few days to speak with you personally. We're going to take a deep dive into your practice. We'll look at your numbers specifically and all the things that you do, where you are today, where you'd like to be, and how do you bridge that gap within the timeline. So we'll take that deep dive and we will map out a plan to help your patients achieve optimal health, you get more of your best dentistry accepted, and ultimately make a lot more money. So who are these complimentary calls for? If you're a general dentist and you're the owner of your practice, schedule schedule a session using the link below the video, and you could also just go to freedomsummitcoaching.com. So that's freedomsummitcoaching.com, but there will be a link once this is posted. There'll be a link below the video. I will guarantee it'll be the best 60 minutes you have ever spent working on your practice. And if you're sick and tired of struggling and you really want to love dentistry again and live a first-class lifestyle and retire wealthy, let's hop on a call and talk about it. Use the link below the video, or you can go to freedomsummitcoaching.com. And remember, you are only one gem. That's right. You are only one gem away. Take care.